The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers and clattered onto the concrete garage floor as Sophie's voice cut through the humid August night like a rusty blade. "Stop endlessly controlling me, Adam. I'm tired of your trouble." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stayed crouched under the hood of my beat-up Subaru, listening to her shriek at someone on the phone. The porch light cast long shadows across our driveway, and Mrs. Patterson's dog was barking again next door. The smell of rain hung heavy in the air, mixing with motor oil and the faint scent of Sophie's expensive perfume drifting from the house. 6 years of marriage, and she finally realizes I'm not her therapist. I wiped my hands on an old rag and stood up, my back protesting after 3 hours bent over the engine. Through the kitchen window, I could see Sophie pacing back and forth, her blonde hair catching the light as she gestured wildly with her free hand. Her voice carried clearly through the screen door. "No, Kate, you don't understand. He questions everything I do. Where I'm going, who I'm with, what I'm spending money on. It's suffocating." Kate Morrison, Sophie's best friend since college, the one who always had an opinion about our marriage, usually delivered with that fake, concerned smile of hers. I'd never liked Kate, something about the way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. I closed the hood with more force than necessary. The metallic clang echoed through the quiet neighborhood, and Sophie's voice paused for a moment before continuing in hushed tones. Walking into the house, I grabbed a beer from the refrigerator and pretended not to notice how quickly Sophie ended her call. She stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, wearing that defensive expression I'd grown to know so well. "Working late again tomorrow?" I asked, twisting off the bottle cap. "Yes, actually. The Henderson project is behind schedule." "Right, the Henderson project." I took a long drink, savoring the cold bite of the beer. "Funny how that project always seems to run late on Thursdays." Her face flushed red. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing at all, Sophie. Just making conversation." She stared at me for a long moment, those green eyes flashing with anger and something else. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance that I wasn't playing along with whatever game she was running. "I'm going to bed," she said finally. "Sweet dreams." I stayed in the kitchen, finishing my beer and listening to her footsteps on the stairs. The house felt different lately, like the walls were holding secrets. Our modest 2-bedroom home on Maple Street had never been much to look at. Peeling paint on the shutters, a front porch that sagged slightly to the left, a lawn that needed constant attention. But it had been ours. Now it just felt like a place where two strangers happened to sleep. My phone buzzed with a text message. Kate Morrison. "Hey, Adam. Know you and Sophie are going through a rough patch. Want to grab coffee tomorrow? Might help to talk." I stared at the message for a full minute. Kate had never, not once in 6 years, suggested we grab coffee. She barely tolerated my existence at social gatherings, always finding ways to steer conversations away from me or toward topics I couldn't contribute to. But something in her sudden interest felt like an opportunity. "Sure. Brewster's Cafe at 10? "Perfect. See you then." I deleted the message thread and headed upstairs. Sophie was already in bed, facing away from me, her breathing too controlled to be natural sleep. I changed into an old t-shirt and boxers, brushing my teeth while studying my reflection in the bathroom mirror. 36 years old, brown hair starting to show gray at the temples, lines around my eyes from too many late nights fixing things that other people had broken. I managed construction projects for Morrison and Associates. No relation to Kate, despite the name coincidence. It was decent work, steady pay, but nothing glamorous. Not like Sophie's freelance design work, with its trendy clients and Instagram-worthy projects. I slipped into bed, careful not to disturb the mattress too much. Sophie's phone lit up on her nightstand, a soft blue glow in the darkness. She reached for it immediately, fingers flying across the screen. "Important client?" I asked quietly. Just Kate. She's having problems with Derek again. Derek was Kate's on-again, off-again boyfriend, a real estate agent with a gambling problem and a wandering eye. Convenient excuse for late-night texting. Tell her I said hi. Sophie's typing paused. I will. But we both knew she wouldn't. I lay there in the dark, listening to the soft tap-tap-tap of her fingers on the screen, and made a decision. Tomorrow's coffee with Kate might be more interesting than she expected. The next morning, I left for work early, stopping by Brewster's Cafe at exactly 10 o'clock. Kate was already there, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups of coffee. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her purse strap and checking her phone every few seconds. Kate Morrison was the kind of woman who tried too hard to look effortless. Perfectly styled auburn hair, designer clothes that looked casual but probably cost more than my monthly car payment, makeup applied with surgical precision. She worked in marketing for some tech startup downtown, the kind of job that involved a lot of buzzwords and very little actual work. Adam, thanks for coming. She stood up to hug me, which was weird. Kate and I didn't hug. We barely shook hands. No problem. What's on your mind? She sat back down, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup. I'm worried about Sophie. She seems really unhappy lately. Unhappy how? Just frustrated, like she feels trapped. Kate's eyes met mine across the table. She loves you, Adam, but I think she needs some space to figure things out. I nodded slowly, taking a sip of coffee. It was bitter, probably been sitting too long. Space to figure things out. That's an interesting way to put it. What do you mean? Nothing. Just wondering what kind of space you think she needs. Kate leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Maybe you two should take a break, a real break. Like, maybe you could go visit your brother in Portland for a few weeks, give Sophie some time to think. My brother lives in Phoenix, Kate. Her face went blank for a second. Right, Phoenix. That's what I meant. Uh-huh. I set down my coffee cup. Tell me something, Kate. How long have you known about Liam? The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. Liam Peterson works at the same design firm Sophie freelances for. About 32, drives a white Tesla, lives in those new condos downtown. Ring any bells? Kate's hands were shaking now. Adam, I think you're being paranoid. Am I? Because Sophie's been working late every Thursday for 3 months, always on projects that somehow never seem to get finished. And last week I found a hotel receipt in her purse. The Riverside Inn, Kate. You know, that place out by the highway where nobody goes unless they're trying not to be seen. You went through her purse? It fell off the counter. Receipt fell out. Funny thing about hotel receipts, they're pretty detailed. Date, time, room number. Want to guess what day of the week it was? Kate stood up abruptly. I should go. Sit down, Kate. Something in my voice made her freeze. I wasn't asking. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. You're going to tell me exactly how long you've known about Sophie's affair. And then you're going to tell me why you really wanted to have coffee today. She sat back down slowly, her eyes darting toward the exit. But Brewster's was crowded, full of people who knew us both. Making a scene would only make things worse. 6 weeks, she whispered. I've known for 6 weeks. And you didn't think to mention it to me? It's not my place to... Bullshit. I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. You know what I think, Kate? I think you've been encouraging this little affair. I think you've been giving Sophie advice on how to sneak around behind my back. Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. Why? Because she deserves better than this. Kate's voice rose, then dropped again as heads turned in our direction. She deserves better than a life where she has to account for every minute of her day, where she can't buy a cup of coffee without getting the 3rd degree. I've never... You have. Maybe not with words, but with looks, with questions, with that way you have of making her feel guilty for having a life outside of your little bubble. I stared at her across the table. So you decided to help her have an affair. I decided to help her remember what it feels like to be wanted, to be desired, to be with someone who appreciates her. Someone like Liam Peterson. Kate's jaw tightened. Yes, someone like Liam. I finished my coffee and stood up. Thanks for the honesty, Kate. Really, it's refreshing. What are you going to do? I smiled, and something in that expression made her flinch. I'm going to give Sophie exactly what she wants, space to figure things out. I left Kate sitting in the booth and walked out into the morning sunshine. My phone was already buzzing with text messages, probably Sophie wondering where I was, but I didn't check them. Instead, I drove to the office and did something I'd never done in 8 years of working for Morrison & Associates. I requested vacation time, 2 weeks, starting immediately. Everything okay, Adam? Asked Janet, the office manager. This is pretty sudden. Family emergency, I said. My wife needs some space to work through some personal issues. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope everything works out. Thanks, Janet. I'm sure it will. By noon, I had packed a bag and loaded it into the Subaru. I left a note for Sophie on the kitchen counter. Gone to Phoenix to visit my brother. Take all the space you need. A. Then I drove to the Riverside Inn and booked a room for 2 weeks. Not because I wanted to stay in the same place where my wife had been cheating on me, but because I wanted to understand exactly what I was dealing with. The desk clerk was chatty, the kind of guy who remembered faces and liked to gossip. You're the second person this week to book an extended stay, he said, processing my credit card. Usually we just get truckers and folks passing through. Really? What was the other person like? Young guy, real fancy car, said he needed somewhere private to conduct business meetings. The clerk winked, if you know what I mean. I knew exactly what he meant. Room 237, he said, handing me the key card. Same floor as your friend, actually. Room 241. Perfect. The Riverside Inn was exactly as depressing as I'd expected. Faded carpet, cigarette burns on the nightstand, and a view of the parking lot that featured my Subaru next to a white Tesla with the license plate Design 1. Liam Peterson was nothing if not subtle. I spent the first day getting to know the layout of the place, chatting with staff, and generally making myself invisible. The night clerk, a college kid named Danny, was particularly helpful. Yeah, that guy in 241 has been coming here every Thursday for months, he said during his shift change. Always with the same woman, real pretty blonde. They order room service, stay about 3 hours, then leave separately. Sounds like a regular business meeting, I said. Danny laughed. Sure, if business meetings involve champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. I tipped him $20 and went back to my room to plan. Sophie's social media had exploded over the past 2 days. Instagram stories about finding herself and new beginnings, Facebook posts about the importance of following your heart. The comments were a mix of supportive friends and confused family members asking where I was. Kate had been busy too, liking every post and adding her own commentary about supporting women's choices and toxic relationships. She was building a narrative, painting me as the controlling husband who had driven poor Sophie into the arms of another man. Fine. Let them build their story. I was building one too. Thursday evening, I positioned myself in the parking lot with a clear view of both the Tesla and the motel entrance. At 6:47 p.m., Sophie's Honda Civic pulled into the lot. She parked 3 spaces away from Liam's car, looked around nervously, then walked quickly to the entrance. She was wearing a red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. At 7:15, I walked into the lobby and approached the front desk. Danny was on duty, and he recognized me immediately. Hey, Mr. Collins, how's the stay going? Great, thanks. Listen, I'm expecting some friends to join me tonight, but I forgot to tell them my room number. If anyone asks for Adam Collins, could you send them to room 237? Sure thing. I slipped him another 20 and went back outside to wait. At 10:23, Sophie and Liam emerged from the building together. They were laughing about something, his hand resting on the small of her back in a gesture that was both intimate and possessive. Sophie looked happier than I'd seen her in months. They walked toward their cars, still talking in low voices. I waited until they were standing between the vehicles, then started my engine and drove slowly across the parking lot with my headlights on high beam. Both of them froze like deer, squinting into the light. I rolled down my window. "Sophie, is that you?" She went white. "Adam, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same question." I put the car in park and got out, making sure to leave the headlights pointed at them. "Having car trouble? I'd be happy to take a look." Liam stepped forward, trying to shield Sophie from the light. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, well-dressed, the kind of guy who spent more on hair products than I spent on groceries. His handshake, when I'd met him briefly at a company party, had been limp and damp. "Adam, right? I'm Liam. We met at the Morrison holiday party." "Right, Liam. Sophie's colleague." I smiled pleasantly. "What a coincidence, running into you both here. At a motel. At 10:30 on a Thursday night." Sophie found her voice. "We were having a business meeting about the Henderson project." "The Henderson project, right." I nodded thoughtfully. "Must be a pretty complex project to require champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries." Liam's face went red. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Oh, I don't think there's been any misunderstanding at all." I walked closer and both of them took a step back. "In fact, I think I understand the situation perfectly. Sophie's been working late every Thursday, always on projects that never seem to get finished. You've been booking the same room at this fine establishment for months. And Kate Morrison has been giving my wife advice on how to follow her heart." "Adam, please," Sophie started. "Please what? Please pretend I don't know what's going on? Please act like I haven't been watching you lie to my face for months?" I laughed, and the sound was harsh in the quiet parking lot. "You know what, Sophie? You're right. I have been controlling. I've been controlling my temper, controlling my language, controlling my natural impulse to make both of your lives very, very difficult." Liam puffed out his chest, trying to look intimidating. "Are you threatening us?" "Threatening? No, Liam. I don't make threats. I make promises. And here's my promise to both of you. If you want to destroy my marriage, fine. But I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly how you did it." I pulled out my phone and took a picture of them standing together in front of the motel. The flash lit up their guilty faces like a crime scene photo. "Smile for Facebook," I said. Sophie lunged for my phone, but I was already walking back to my car. "Adam, don't you dare post that." "Why not? You're not ashamed of your relationship, are you? Kate keeps posting about supporting women's choices. I'm sure she'd love to support this choice publicly." I got in the Subaru and rolled down the window. "Oh, and Liam, next time you want to have a private business meeting, you might want to choose a place where the desk clerk doesn't remember every customer. Danny says hi, by the way." I drove away, leaving them standing in the parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I could see them arguing, their body language tense and panicked. By the time I got back to my room, my phone was buzzing with calls and text messages. Sophie, mostly, but also Kate and several numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all and opened my laptop. The Facebook post was simple, a photo of Sophie and Liam at the motel, with the caption, "Ran into my wife and her colleague tonight. They were having a very thorough business meeting about the Henderson project. So dedicated to their work." Marriage goals. Business meeting. Riverside Inn. I tagged Sophie, Liam, Kate, and about 30 mutual friends, then posted it to 3 different local Facebook groups. Within an hour, the post had 47 likes and 23 comments. Most of them were some variation of, "Oh my God, Adam, I'm so sorry," or "I can't believe Sophie would do this to you." But a few were more interesting. Apparently, Liam had a reputation around town. 3 different women commented about their own experiences with his business meetings, and one mentioned seeing him at the Riverside Inn with at least 2 other women over the past year. Sophie called me 17 times before I finally answered. "Take it down!" she screamed. "Take that post down right now!" "Why? I thought you weren't ashamed of your choices." "You're humiliating me." "No, Sophie. You humiliated yourself. I'm just making sure people know about it." "This is cruel, Adam. Even for you." "Cruel? You want to know what's cruel? Cruel is lying to your husband's face for months. Cruel is letting your best friend help you plan an affair. Cruel is wearing the dress I bought you to meet another man at a cheap motel." She was crying now, ugly sobs that might have moved me a few days ago. "Please, Adam, I'll end it with Liam. We can work this out." "End it?" "Sophie, honey, I don't think you understand. This is just the beginning." I hung up and turned off my phone. Then I opened my laptop and started researching Liam Peterson in earnest. By morning, I knew everything about him. His address at the luxury condos downtown, his job history, his financial situation, his social media accounts, his family, his ex-girlfriends, and his very expensive taste in cars, clothes, and restaurants. I also knew he was married. His wife lived in Seattle, where she worked as a pediatric nurse. They'd been separated for 8 months, according to his Facebook relationship status, but they were still legally married. Her name was Jennifer, and her Instagram account was full of pictures of their 2 young children. I sent Jennifer a private message with the photo of Liam and Sophie, along with a brief explanation of the situation. Then I drove to Liam's condo building and had a conversation with the parking garage attendant. "Yeah, I know that Tesla," said the attendant, an older man named Frank. "Guy's a real piece of work. Thinks his shit don't stink, you know? Never tips, never says thank you, acts like we're all beneath him. Sounds like a charmer. You know what really gets me? He's got that fancy car, but he can't be bothered to park it properly. Always takes up 2 spaces, leaves it crooked. Last week he blocked the fire lane for 3 hours. That's inconsiderate. Tell me about it. And don't get me started on the women. Different one every week, sometimes 2 or 3. Building's supposed to be quiet, but his place sounds like a nightclub most weekends." Frank was a talker, the kind of guy who'd been holding grudges for decades and was happy to share them with anyone who'd listen. By the time I left, I had a complete picture of Liam's lifestyle and habits. More importantly, I had Frank's phone number and his promise to call me if anything interesting happened to the white Tesla. That evening, I drove to Murphy's Pub, the local Irish bar where Sophie and I used to go for trivia night. It was crowded, full of people I recognized from around town. Word about the Facebook post had spread, and I found myself the center of attention in a way I'd never experienced before. "Adam, Jesus, man, I saw that post. I can't believe Sophie did that to you." This from Mike Brennan, a guy I knew from the gym. "You holding up okay?" "I'm managing, thanks. That Liam guy, he's got some balls, I'll give him that. Messing around with a married woman in this town? Everyone knows everyone here." "Yeah, it's not the smartest move. You want my advice? Take him for everything he's got. Divorce court's gonna love this." I bought Mike a beer and let him talk. He knew Liam from some business networking event, and his opinion wasn't flattering. Slick talker, but there's nothing behind it. The kind of guy who promises the world and delivers nothing. I heard he got fired from his last job for sleeping with a client's wife. Really? Oh yeah, big scandal. That's probably why he ended up freelancing instead of working for a real firm. The conversation continued for another hour, with various people stopping by to offer condolences, advice, or gossip about Liam and Sophie. By the time I left, I had a much clearer picture of how the town saw the situation. I was the wronged husband, the victim of a cheating wife and her predatory lover. Sophie was the ungrateful woman who'd thrown away a good marriage for a fling with a known womanizer. And Liam was the outsider who'd come into our community and disrupted a local family. It was a narrative I could work with. I woke up on Friday morning to find my phone buzzing with notifications. The Facebook post had been shared 43 times overnight, and the comments section had turned into a full-scale roast of Liam Peterson and, to a lesser extent, Sophie. But the most interesting notification was a friend request from Jennifer Peterson, Liam's wife in Seattle. Her message was brief. "Thank you for letting me know. Can we talk?" I called her at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Jennifer had a soft voice with a slight southern accent, and she sounded exhausted. "I've been wondering why Liam kept postponing the divorce paperwork," she said. "Now I know. He's been too busy playing house with your wife. I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "Don't be. I'm glad someone finally told me the truth. Liam's been sending me pictures of his lonely bachelor life, making me feel guilty for keeping the kids away from him. Meanwhile, he's been having affairs with married women." "Affairs? Plural?" Jennifer laughed bitterly. "Oh, honey, your wife isn't the first. There was a woman in Portland, another one in Sacramento. Probably more I don't know about. Liam has a type, married, successful, looking for excitement. He tells them he's separated and looking for love, but really, he's just looking for closeness and someone to pay for dinner." "Sophie's been paying for their dates?" "Probably. Liam's broke. The condo, the car, the clothes. It's all financed up to his eyeballs. He's been living on credit cards and charm for 2 years. This was getting more interesting by the minute. "What kind of debt are we talking about?" "Last I knew, about $60,000 in credit cards, plus the car loan and the mortgage on the condo. His freelance work barely covers the minimum payments." "Jesus. Yeah, and now I know why he's been so eager to finalize the divorce. He's probably planning to move in with your wife and let her support his lifestyle." I thanked Jennifer for the information and promised to keep in touch. Then I sat back in my motel room chair and considered my options. Sophie had called in sick to work, according to her Instagram story about dealing with personal attacks and negativity. Kate had posted a long rant about cyberbullying and men who can't handle strong women making their own choices. Liam had gone radio silent on social media, but according to Frank, the parking attendant, he hadn't left his condo since Thursday night. They were all hiding, waiting for the storm to blow over. But I was just getting started. I spent Friday morning creating fake social media accounts and joining local Facebook groups, neighborhood forums, and business networking pages. Then I started sharing the story of my wife's affair, always with a slightly different angle. In the parenting groups, I focused on the impact on families and children. In the business networks, I highlighted Liam's unprofessional conduct and financial irresponsibility. In the neighborhood forums, I played up the moral outrage angle. Each post included carefully selected details: the motel receipts, the lies about working late, Kate's role in encouraging the affair, Liam's history of targeting married women. I never said anything that wasn't true, but I made sure the truth was as damaging as possible. By Friday evening, Liam Peterson cheating scandal was trending in 3 local Facebook groups. Saturday morning, I drove to Sophie's favorite coffee shop, the trendy place downtown where she liked to work on her laptop and be seen by potential clients. She was there, sitting in the corner with her head down, typing furiously on her phone. She looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wasn't wearing makeup, and her clothes looked like she'd slept in them. The confident, polished woman I'd married was gone, replaced by someone who looked defeated and desperate. I ordered a large coffee and sat down at the table next to hers. "Hello, Sophie." She looked up, and I saw fear in her eyes. "Adam, what do you want?" "Just getting some coffee. This is still a free country, right?" "People are staring." I glanced around the coffee shop. She was right. Every conversation had stopped, and at least a dozen people were watching us with barely concealed curiosity. "Maybe they're staring because you're famous now, local celebrity and all that. This has to stop, Adam. The posts, the comments, the harassment. It's gone too far." "Harassment? I haven't harassed anyone. I've just been sharing my experience with friends and neighbors." "You've been destroying my reputation." No, Sophie. You destroyed your reputation when you decided to have an affair with a married man at a cheap motel. I'm just making sure people know about it. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. What do you want? Money? I'll give you whatever you want in the divorce. Just make it stop. I sipped my coffee, taking my time. You know what I want, Sophie? I want everyone to know exactly who you are. I want your clients to know they're hiring someone who lies and cheats. I want your friends to know what kind of person they've been supporting. And I want Liam to understand what happens when you mess with someone's family in a small town. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared, because this is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. I stood up to leave, then paused. Oh, and Sophie? You might want to ask Liam about his wife in Seattle and his $60,000 in credit card debt and his history of targeting married women. I'm sure he's been completely honest with you about all of that. The color drained from her face. What are you talking about? Ask him yourself. I'm sure he'll tell you the truth this time. I walked out of the coffee shop, leaving Sophie sitting alone at her table while half the room whispered about her. That afternoon, I drove to Liam's condo building. Frank, the parking attendant, was on duty, and he flagged me down as soon as I pulled into the visitor parking area. Hey, you're that guy whose wife was cheating with the Tesla owner, right? That's me. Man, I gotta tell you, that guy's been acting real strange since Thursday. Hasn't left his apartment, keeps ordering food delivery, had some woman screaming at him in the hallway yesterday. Screaming about what? Couldn't make it all out, but I heard something about lies and money in Seattle. She was real upset. Sounds like trouble in paradise. Yeah, and get this. Building management got 3 complaints about him this week. Apparently, some of the other residents saw that Facebook post and realized he's the guy who's been bringing different women here all the time. They're saying it's affecting property values, having that kind of reputation in the building. Frank was enjoying this immensely. Building owner's not happy either. Guy's already 2 months behind on his condo fees, and now he's a public embarrassment. Word is they're looking for reasons to evict him. 2 months behind? Oh yeah. I heard the property manager talking about it. Guy's broke, living on credit cards and charm. Won't be long before it all catches up with him. I thanked Frank for the information and drove home to check on the house. Sophie's car wasn't in the driveway, but there were signs she'd been there. Mail stacked on the kitchen counter, dishes in the sink, her laptop charging on the dining room table. I sat down and opened the laptop. Sophie had never been careful about passwords, and her browser was still logged into her email accounts, social media, and banking. What I found there was fascinating. Email threads with Kate going back 6 months, detailing plans for the affair and strategies for hiding it from me. Financial records showing Sophie had been paying for hotel rooms, dinners, and even some of Liam's bills. Text messages with Liam that were explicit enough to make me nauseous, but also revealing about his financial desperation and his promises to leave his wife as soon as the divorce is finalized. Most interesting were the messages from the past 2 days. Liam begging Sophie to weather the storm and promising that everything would blow over soon. Kate advising Sophie to stand strong against Adam's manipulation and not let him control the narrative. And Sophie growing more panicked by the hour as the social media posts spread and her professional reputation crumbled. Her last message to Liam was from that morning. We need to talk. Adam knows about Jennifer and your debts. What else have you lied about? His response, can't meet in public right now. Too much heat. Let's wait until this dies down. Her reply, this isn't dying down, Liam. It's getting worse. I lost 2 clients today because of the Facebook posts. My family is asking questions. I need answers. No response from Liam. I screenshot everything and saved it to a flash drive. Then I composed a new Facebook post. Update on my situation. Thanks to everyone who's reached out with support and information. I've learned some interesting things about my wife's affair partner, including his history of targeting married women, his substantial debts, and the fact that he's still legally married with 2 young children in Seattle. It's amazing how much you can discover about someone when you start asking the right questions. Sophie, if you're reading this, you might want to ask Liam about Jennifer, Madison, and Emma. I'm sure he's mentioned his family to you, right? Truth. Marriage goals. Small town secrets. I posted it to my timeline and tagged Sophie, Liam, Kate, and 43 mutual friends. Within minutes, the comments started pouring in. Wait, he's married with kids? Sophie knew he was married and didn't care? Those poor children in Seattle! This keeps getting worse and worse. I can't believe I defended Sophie yesterday. This changes everything. My phone rang. Sophie, of course. You bastard! She screamed. You absolute bastard! How could you bring innocent children into this? I didn't bring them into anything, Sophie. Liam did when he decided to cheat on his wife while avoiding child support payments. Child support payments? Oh, he didn't mention that part? Yeah. Jennifer's been supporting their kids alone while Liam plays bachelor in his fancy condo. But I'm sure he told you all about his family situation, right? Silence. Right, Sophie? He said he was divorced, she whispered. He lied. About that, about his finances, about his job history, probably about his feelings for you too. But hey, you're both liars, so maybe you're perfect for each other. Adam, please. Please what? Please stop telling the truth? Please let you and your boyfriend destroy my life without consequences? Please pretend that 6 years of marriage don't matter? I never meant for it to happen this way. But it did happen this way, and now everyone gets to see exactly who you really are. I hung up and turned off my phone. Then I drove to Murphy's pub for a drink and to see how the town was reacting to the latest revelations. The bar was packed for a Saturday night, and I was greeted like a returning war hero. People bought me drinks, shared their own stories about cheating spouses, and offered increasingly creative suggestions for revenge. You should key his car, suggested one guy. Nah, too obvious, said another. You should put sugar in his gas tank. What you should do, said Mike Brennan, is hit him where it really hurts, his wallet and his reputation. Make it so he can't work in this town anymore. I nursed my beer and listened to the suggestions, filing away the useful ones and discarding the illegal ones. By closing time, I had a clear picture of public opinion. The town had turned completely against Sophie and Liam. She was now seen as a homewrecker who'd knowingly pursued a married father, and he was seen as a predator who targeted local women while abandoning his own family. Kate, interestingly, was starting to take heat too. Several people mentioned her role in encouraging the affair, and a few questioned why she'd been so eager to destroy a local marriage. As I walked to my car, I realized I'd crossed a line somewhere in the past few days. I'd gone from victim to aggressor, from defending myself to actively destroying other people's lives. The old Adam would have felt guilty about that. The new Adam just felt satisfied. Sunday morning brought a knock on my motel room door at 7 a.m. I opened it to find Kate Morrison standing in the hallway, looking like she hadn't slept in days. We need to talk, she said. Do we? Adam, this has gone too far. You're destroying innocent people. I stepped aside to let her in. She looked around the shabby motel room with obvious distaste, then sat down in the single chair by the window. Innocent people? I laughed. That's rich, coming from you. Sophie made a mistake, okay? But she doesn't deserve to have her life ruined over it. A mistake? Kate, she's been planning this affair for months with your help. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Kate's composure cracked slightly. She was unhappy, Adam. You made her unhappy. So unhappy that she couldn't just ask for a divorce like an adult. She had to sneak around behind my back instead. She was afraid of you. Afraid of me? Kate, I've never raised my voice to Sophie, never threatened her, never done anything to make her afraid. The only thing she was afraid of was losing half the house in a divorce. Kate stood up and started pacing. You don't understand what it's like for women in marriages like yours. The constant judgment, The feeling like you're being watched all the time. The way you make her account for every dollar she spends. I make her account for every dollar. Kate, we have joint bank accounts. I've never restricted her spending or questioned her purchases. What the hell are you talking about? The way you look at her when she goes out with friends, like you're suspicious of everything she does. Maybe because she was lying about everything she was doing. Kate stopped pacing and turned to face me. She wouldn't have had to lie if you weren't so controlling. Controlling how exactly? Give me one specific example of how I've controlled Sophie's life. You always... Kate struggled for words. You make her feel guilty for wanting things. What things? Nice things, experiences, a life outside of this boring little town. Kate, we've taken 3 vacations in the past 2 years. Sophie bought a new car last year, redecorated the entire house, and spends more on clothes than I make in a month. What exactly have I prevented her from having? It's not about the money. Then what is it about? Kate's face flushed red. It's about respect. It's about being with someone who appreciates her, who makes her feel special, who doesn't take her for granted. Someone like Liam Peterson? Yes, someone like Liam. I stared at her for a long moment. Kate, Liam Peterson is a broke, lying, serial cheater who's been using my wife to pay his bills while he avoids supporting his own children. If that's your definition of someone who appreciates women, your standards are pretty low. That's not... Sophie said he was divorced. Sophie said a lot of things. Most of them were lies. Kate sat back down, looking deflated. This isn't how it was supposed to happen. What was supposed to happen? She didn't answer, just stared out the window at the parking lot. Kate, why did you really encourage Sophie to have this affair? Because she deserves better than you, she said quietly. Better than me specifically, or better than marriage in general. Better than settling for a boring life with someone who doesn't understand her. I sat down on the bed, studying Kate's face. There was something she wasn't telling me, something that went deeper than just wanting to help a friend. How long have you been planning this? Planning what? This whole thing. The affair, the manipulation, the way you've been positioning yourself as Sophie's savior. How long have you been working to break up my marriage? Kate's eyes flashed with anger. I didn't break up your marriage, Adam. You did that yourself. By doing what exactly? By being you. That's not an answer, Kate. She stood up again, more agitated now. You want to know the truth? Fine. Sophie called me crying 6 months ago because you forgot her birthday. I didn't forget her birthday. I had to work late because of an emergency at a construction site, and I took her out the next night instead. She said you prioritized work over her. I prioritized paying our mortgage over dinner reservations, yes. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. You don't understand what's important to her. And Liam does? Liam makes her feel like a priority. He sends her flowers, takes her to nice restaurants, tells her she's beautiful. With her money, Kate. He does all of that with her money because he's broke. At least he tries. I've been trying for 6 years. I work 60-hour weeks to pay for the house she wanted, the car she wanted, the lifestyle she wanted. I've supported every business idea she's had, every career change, every whim. What more was I supposed to do? Kate was quiet for a moment. You were supposed to fight for her. Fight for her how? When she started pulling away, when she started working late, when she started being distant, you were supposed to fight to get her back. Instead, you just accepted it. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. So this is my fault because I trusted my wife instead of stalking her? It's your fault because you gave up. I gave up. Kate, I've been trying to save my marriage for months. I suggested counseling, planned date nights, asked what was wrong, tried to be more attentive. Sophie shot down every attempt I made. Because it was too late by then. Too late for what? Kate's composure finally cracked completely. Too late to stop her from realizing she could do better. The room went quiet. Kate was breathing hard, her face red with anger and frustration. I stared at her, pieces of a puzzle finally clicking into place. This isn't about Sophie at all, is it? What? This whole thing, the affair, the manipulation, the way you've been trying to destroy my marriage, it's not about helping Sophie, it's about hurting me. You're being paranoid. Am I? Because I'm starting to remember some things, Kate. Like how you always seemed uncomfortable around me, how you never wanted to double date or hang out as couples, how you always found excuses to get Sophie away from me at parties. Kate's eyes darted toward the door. And I'm remembering something else. About 7 years ago, before Sophie and I got married, you asked me out. Do you remember that, Kate? Her face went white. We were at that New Year's Eve party at Mike Brennan's house. Sophie was sick with the flu, so I went alone. You cornered me in the kitchen around midnight and suggested we get some air together. When I told you I was in love with Sophie and planning to propose, you got angry. Really angry. That was a long time ago. You called Sophie a basic girl who didn't deserve me, said I was wasting my potential on someone who would never appreciate what I had to offer. Kate stood up abruptly. I need to go. Sit down, Kate. I'm leaving. Sit down. Or I'll post those screenshots of your emails with Sophie, the ones where you're coaching her on how to lie to me, where to meet Liam, how to hide the affair. I'm sure your employer would be very interested in seeing how you spend your work hours. Kate sat down slowly, her hands shaking. Now, let's talk about what this is really about. You've been in love with me for 7 years, haven't you? That's ridiculous, is it? Because everything makes sense now. The way you've been trying to break up my marriage, the way you pushed Sophie toward Liam, the way you've been positioning yourself as her supportive friend while secretly sabotaging her relationship. You don't know what you're talking about. I think I do. You figured if you could get Sophie to cheat, I'd leave her and finally be available. But you didn't count on me fighting back, did you? You thought I'd just quietly disappear and let you comfort Sophie through her divorce. Kate's voice was barely a whisper. Sophie doesn't love you the way you deserve to be loved. Maybe not, but that's between Sophie and me, not between you and me. She takes you for granted, Adam. She always has. She complains about you constantly, how boring you are, how predictable, how you never surprise her anymore. And you just listen to all of that, encouraging her to feel dissatisfied. I listened because I care about both of you. No, Kate. You listened because you wanted her to leave me. Kate started crying, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. She doesn't deserve you, she whispered. She never did. I would have loved you better. I would have appreciated everything you did, everything you sacrificed. I wouldn't have cheated on you with some loser who just wanted to use me. I felt a mixture of pity and disgust. So you decided to destroy my marriage instead of just moving on with your life. I thought if she saw what she was throwing away. You thought if you could get her to cheat, I'd realize what a terrible person she was and come running to you. Kate nodded miserably. Well, congratulations, Kate. Your plan worked perfectly. I do realize what a terrible person Sophie is, but if you think that makes me interested in you, you're delusional. Adam, you're just as bad as she is. Worse, actually, because at least Sophie's affair was about attraction and excitement. Your manipulation was about obsession and revenge. I stood up and walked to the door. Get out. What are you going to do? I'm going to finish what you started. Sophie wanted to destroy our marriage? Fine. But she's not going to get to play the victim while she does it. Kate wiped her eyes and stood up. Please don't tell people about what I said. About you being in love with me? Kate, that's going to be the least of your problems when I'm done. She left without another word, and I watched from the window as she drove away in her silver BMW. Then I sat down at my laptop and started typing. The new Facebook post was longer than the others, but I wanted to make sure I got all the details right. Final update on my wife's affair. I've discovered that this situation is even more complicated than I initially thought. It turns out that Sophie's best friend, Kate Morrison, has been orchestrating this affair for months, not to help Sophie find happiness, but to break up our marriage for her own reasons. Kate has been coaching Sophie on how to lie to me, where to meet her lover, and how to hide the relationship. She's also been encouraging Sophie's dissatisfaction with our marriage while positioning herself as the supportive friend. I have email evidence of all of this, including Kate's admission that she's been trying to destroy my marriage since before it began. Sophie thought she was getting support from her best friend, but she was actually being manipulated by someone with her own agenda. Liam Peterson thought he was seducing a lonely housewife, but he was actually being used as a weapon in someone else's revenge plot. And I thought my wife was having a midlife crisis, but she was actually being systematically turned against me by someone I trusted. It's amazing how much damage one person can do when they're willing to manipulate everyone around them. Kate, Sophie, Liam, you all deserve each other. Truth, manipulation, small-town drama, fake friends. I posted it and tagged everyone involved, plus their employers, family members, and mutual friends. Then I packed my bag and checked out of the Riverside Inn. It was time to go home and see what was left of my marriage. The house was empty when I arrived, but Sophie's car was in the driveway. I found her sitting in the backyard, staring at her phone with tears streaming down her face. "Hello, Sophie." She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "Why did you have to tell everyone about Kate?" "Because it's the truth, and because I'm tired of being the only honest person in this situation. She was trying to help me. She was trying to destroy our marriage so she could have me for herself. There's a difference." Sophie stared at me. "What?" "Kate's been in love with me for 7 years, Sophie. This whole affair was her way of trying to break us up." That's impossible." "Is it? Think about it, Sophie. Who suggested you deserved better than me? Who encouraged you to explore your options? Who introduced you to Liam at that networking event? Who coached you on how to hide the affair?" Sophie's face went pale as the pieces fell into place. She said she just wanted me to be happy. She wanted you to be single so I would be available. "But she's my best friend." "No, Sophie. She was your best friend. What she became was your manipulator." Sophie put her head in her hands. "Oh God, what have I done?" "You destroyed our marriage for a man who was using you and a friend who was using both of us." "Adam, I'm so sorry. I know I can't take it back, but I'm so sorry." I looked at my wife, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She looked broken, defeated, nothing like the confident woman who'd been sneaking around behind my back just a week ago. "Are you sorry you had the affair, or are you sorry you got caught?" "I'm sorry for all of it. The lying, the cheating, the way I treated you, the way I let Kate influence me. I'm sorry for throwing away 6 years of marriage for someone who didn't even care about me." "What about Liam?" "I ended it yesterday after I found out about his wife and kids. He's been calling and texting, but I won't answer." "And Kate?" "I never want to see her again." I sat down in the chair across from her. "Sophie, do you understand what you've done? Not just to our marriage, but to your reputation, your career, your relationships with everyone we know?" "I know. I've lost 3 clients since Thursday. My sister won't return my calls. My parents are asking questions I can't answer." "And you think saying you're sorry is going to fix all of that?" "I don't know what else to do, Adam. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or deception, but all I saw was genuine remorse and desperation. "Sophie, even if I could forgive you, and I'm not sure I can, How could I ever trust you again? How could I believe anything you say after months of lies? I don't know, she whispered, but I want to try. Try what? Try to earn back your trust. Try to rebuild what we had. Try to be the wife I should have been all along. I was quiet for a long time, watching her cry in our backyard while the sun set behind the trees we'd planted together 3 years ago. Sophie, what we had is gone. You killed it when you decided to have an affair instead of talking to me about whatever problems you thought we had. I know. And even if we could somehow rebuild it, would you want to? Because everyone in this town knows what you did. Everyone knows about Liam, about Kate, about the motel. Is that really the life you want to live? She looked up at me with something like hope in her eyes. If it means being with you, yes. Even though I'm boring and predictable and take you for granted. I never said those things. Kate did. She said you complained about me constantly. How boring I was, how predictable, how I never surprised you anymore. Sophie's face crumpled. I was venting to my friend. I was just frustrated sometimes, but I didn't mean for it to sound like that. Frustrated about what? About feeling like we were roommates instead of lovers. About feeling like we were going through the motions instead of really living. About wondering if this was all there was going to be for the rest of our lives. So, instead of talking to me about it, you decided to have an affair. Kate said talking wouldn't help. She said men like you don't change, and I needed to decide if I could live with things the way they were or if I needed something more. And you decided you needed something more. I decided I needed to feel wanted again, desired, like I mattered to someone. I shook my head. Sophie, I've told you I love you every day for 6 years. I've worked overtime to pay for everything you wanted. I've supported every dream you've had, even when they were expensive and impractical. How is that not showing you that you matter to me? It's not the same thing. How is it not the same thing? Love and desire are different, Adam. You love me like I'm your sister or your best friend, but you don't desire me like a lover. When's the last time I turned you down for closeness? It's not about frequency, it's about passion. When's the last time you looked at me like you couldn't wait to get me alone? When's the last time you surprised me with something romantic? When's the last time you made me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world? I thought about it honestly. I don't know. Liam made me feel like that every time I saw him. Liam was trying to get laid and have his bills paid. Of course he made you feel special. But he did make me feel special. And I realized I'd forgotten what that felt like. We sat in silence as darkness fell around us. Sophie's words stung because there was truth in them. I had gotten complacent in our marriage, taking for granted that she knew how I felt about her without showing it regularly. But that didn't excuse what she'd done. Sophie, even if I accept that our marriage had problems, having an affair wasn't the solution. Lying to me for months wasn't the solution. Letting Kate manipulate you into destroying everything we built wasn't the solution. I know that now. Do you? Because a week ago you were perfectly happy sneaking around behind my back. The only reason you're sorry now is because you got caught and everyone knows about it. That's not true. Isn't it? If I hadn't found out, would you have ended the affair? Sophie was quiet for a long time. I don't know, she finally admitted. That's what I thought. I stood up to go inside, but she grabbed my arm. Adam, wait. What happens now? Now? Now you get to live with the consequences of your choices. We both do. Are you filing for divorce? I looked down at her, this woman I'd loved for 6 years, sitting in our backyard with tears on her face and desperation in her eyes. I don't know yet, Sophie, but I do know one thing. The marriage we had is over. Whether we try to build something new or just walk away completely, that version of us is over. I killed it. Yes, you did. I went inside, leaving her sitting alone in the dark. Chapter 5. The Peak. Monday morning began with a phone call that changed everything. "Mr. Collins? This is Detective Sarah Martinez with the County Sheriff's Office. We need to talk about threats made against Liam Peterson." I was at the kitchen table with coffee, watching comments on my Facebook posts. The affair story had exploded over the weekend, beyond our town, into neighboring communities, and a local news blog. "What kind of threats?" I asked. "Mr. Peterson alleges you've been harassing him, making threats, encouraging others to vandalize his property and harass him at work." "Detective, I haven't threatened him. I posted facts about his affair with my wife," I said. I'd printed motel receipts, screenshots of Sophie and Kate's messages, parking lot photos, and records showing Liam's debts and marital status. If Liam wanted to play hardball, I was ready. Detective Martinez asked me to come in. She was matter-of-fact and tired, the kind of cop who's seen too many messy lives. At the station, she read my folder, nodded, and asked about the parking lot confrontation. I approached them outside the Riverside Inn, took a photo, told them I'd make sure everyone knew, I said. I didn't threaten violence. I promised to expose what was happening. "That could be interpreted as a threat," she said. "And your posts? He says they've cost him work." "All I posted is true. If truth damages his reputation, that's his consequence," I replied. She warned me I was walking a fine line, and that continued escalation might bring trouble. I told her I'd been hurt, and she asked me to be smart. I left the station angrier and more determined. Murphy's Pub that night felt like a different world. Folks greeted me like a local hero. Mike Brennan and Frank the parking attendant fed me gossip. Building management had papers ready to evict Liam, who'd violated lease clauses, racked up fees, and stirred trouble. The next morning, Frank called to say eviction papers had been served. Word spread fast. I used it. I visited the design firm where Sophie and Liam worked. Their converted warehouse office was full of people who liked to think they were above small-town drama. I met Carol, the building manager, showed her the proof, Jennifer Peterson's info, receipts, and the emails proving Liam lied about being single. She was concerned. If he'd misled the firm about his personal life, it could be a liability. Then Jennifer called from Seattle. She'd filed for divorce and custody, armed with evidence of Liam's affairs and fraud. He'd been underreporting income while spending on dates and hotels. "This will help my case," she said. "Thank you." I felt a quiet satisfaction. By Wednesday, eviction was underway. I drove by Liam's condo and watched boxes pile into his Tesla. I called him. His voice sounded small. "You picked the wrong man to threaten," I said. "I want you to leave town, stay away from Sophie, and stop playing the victim." "You've destroyed my life," he snapped. "No," I said. "You destroyed it when you decided to have an affair with a married woman. I only made the truth visible." He agreed to leave. I suspected he would. We'd made him impossible to keep. Sophie moved out to her sister's. She knocked before she left. "Adam, I'm sorry for everything," she said, eyes hollow. "I know," I answered. "If you want to try to fix things, do it honestly. No secrets." She kissed my cheek and left. I watched her go and sat down to write my final Facebook update. I posted a summary. Liam had left town, Sophie was staying elsewhere while we decided about the marriage, Kate Morrison's role had been exposed, and the community had my back. I thanked everyone who supported me. I admitted I might seem controlling or vindictive, but I preferred to have my dignity than be naively betrayed. I offered Sophie a chance to rebuild on my terms. Then I closed the laptop. The post blew up, shared hundreds of times, hundreds of comments. Reporters called, friends texted. For a time I felt like a folk hero, the betrayed husband who refused to be passive. But the victory felt complicated. I'd chosen to weaponize the truth and social media, to turn neighbors, employers, and clients into instruments of consequence. I'd cost people jobs, reputations, and homes. I had become the villain in the eyes of some, and the avenger in the eyes of others. I felt no remorse, not for the exposure, not for the ruin. They'd started it. Over the next days, the consequences concretized. Landlords moved to evict. Employers initiated reviews. Jennifer used the evidence to strengthen her custody and divorce claims. Liam's credit and reputation unraveled. Sophie lost clients and friends who couldn't separate her work from her choices. Kate, the friend who'd engineered parts of this, found herself isolated. People sent messages, some thanking me, others calling me obsessive. One unknown number texted, "My husband cheated too. Thank you for showing how to fight back." I put the phone down and turned off notifications. The noise mattered less than the fact that I had reclaimed some thread of control in a life that had been thrown into chaos. I wasn't naive enough to think public justice equaled moral clarity. I had decided I would not be a quiet casualty. I documented, revealed, and pressured until the situation resolved in a way that protected my family and punished the liar. It had worked. Liam left. Sophie left our home to think. Kate was exposed. The town buzzed about my actions. Some praised, some condemned. That night I repaired the Subaru in my garage, the familiar work grounding me more than the chorus of online voices. I had said my piece. I had inflicted consequences on those who'd betrayed me. I had kept the option, however remote, of rebuilding with honesty. If people called me villain for that, so be it. I had been taken for granted and manipulated. Now I had the agency to shape the aftermath. I slept with the strange comfort of someone who had chosen to fight back, and won, in the only currency that mattered to me: truth, exposure, and control.